Hi everybody, this is the baseball head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, and this is another report from the insane asylum known as WFAN.
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha, they're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha, to the funny fun.
Yes, this just in, this is another report from the insane asylum, the legendary radio station known as WFAN. I would mention that there's no competition here. There's no alternative for fans to go to get a different take on what's going on with the teams in this city. ESPN radio, which was in New York, they are losing their FM dial. Disney is getting rid of it. They're going to sell the rights to the station. They're going to stay on AM, which is not really... AM is kind of, you want to be FM, you always want to be FM, because it goes further out, reaches further places. So as fans, we don't have an alternative to get good content on free radio. So when our teams get attacked by these clowns on the fan, there's nowhere else you could go. But I would mention that talk radio, and specifically sports talk radio, is kind of struggling. I mean, they're really struggling. They're struggling in other towns. Now here, there's only WFAN. You know, there's no alternative. But you have all other alternatives on different platforms. Obviously, on Sirius XM Radio, Spotify, and obviously on WFAN, where people give you different takes on different things, and specifically on the Mets. I've talked a lot about it over here since the summer. The WFAN is constantly attacking the Mets. They say whatever the Mets do is wrong, and even when the Mets do something right, it's wrong. And that has been the mantra of that radio station for 30 years. They hide behind the fact that they are objective. They're not objective. And probably the least objective person is the subject of this video. But we've known this for many years. If you're a fan of the Mets, you hate WFAN, because the Mets get treated so poorly and so unfairly. And I thought that things would get better after the Wilpons sold the ball club, and that has not happened. It seems like it's gotten worse. To sort of go back a little bit. A month and a half after Steve Cohen bought the team in 2020, early 21, the morning show of Boomer and Gio said that Steve Cohen hadn't done anything. This was a failure of a team. The Mets hired another guy to run the ball club this offseason, David Stearns. 4 days after that, they were again attacked. The Mets were attacked on the air by the morning program, and in particular, Stearns was attacked 4 days after he was hired, saying that if he traded Pete Alonso, that the Mets should fire Stearns. But then they hide behind the fact, well, the fans are going to say it. The fans have not said that. They have said that. Go back a little bit. Last year, there was some issues that happened with Steve Cohen's business, and Boomer Esiason went on the air and basically declared that he was not going back to the Citi Field unless Steve Cohen told him exactly what was going on in his business. Terrible, complete total insanity. This past year, Spaz Licata, who says he's a Met fan, talks about spouses on SNY, but basically said that Pete Alonso was a toxic individual with no proof. He said that's what he knows. He's toxic, and he's a bad guy in the clubhouse, and everything's been contrary to that. He's the only one that said that. Members of his co-workers doubled down on the air, like guys like Sean Morash, who's an award winner himself. My goodness. I'll mention this about Morash. If you Google Sean Morash online, it's one picture after another of him eating, and there is a video of him a few weeks ago choking on a chicken cutlet on the air on SNY. But let's talk about a self-proclaimed show for the New York Yankees, and this is the guy that took over for Steve Summers, and that is Keith McPherson. If you want to know all the toxic, anonymous accounts, if you want to follow one of those toxic accounts that are anonymous and see what they write, basically Keith McPherson says all that stuff. And here's the thing about McPherson. He thinks he's a fictional villain in a movie. He thinks he's a fictional drug dealer in a movie. And that's Scarface. He thinks he's Al Pacino in Scarface. Al Pacino in Scarface, he's an actor. And the character he plays is a murderous villain. And McPherson thinks he's that. He's a millennial. He's none of that. So here he is attacking the Mets fans. Now, I would mention he said he was a self-professed show for the Yankees. We know that radio has a history of payola. Payola is where radio stations, record companies pay radio DJs money to play their records. So it makes me wonder if he's being paid under the table by someone to show for the Yankees, so we can attack the Mets. We know that this happens. We know that this happens in other media. We know the media is scum, and they're all scum, all of them. But here's from Odyssey.com. Keith trolls angry Mets callers moments after Juan Soto trade news breaks. Just minutes after Keith McPherson finished his initial celebration of the report of Juan Soto trade, calls came in from Mets fans, starting with Charlie in Queens. When did you take calls from... I would mention this about McPherson. The first guest he had on his program was his sister. So he's not very good with the guests. He likes things very laid back. He's a millennial. He's soft. Quote, I just can't see from some of the calls. They're tight tonight, Keith said. They're not going to sleep right tonight. Well, he's a poet. He doesn't even know it. Sure enough, Charlie immediately ripped the trade and declared that the Yankees were still far from being a contender, despite adding Soto, and one major acquisition isn't enough for the Bombers. Now, I would mention, they will go nowhere without Aaron Judge playing well. And Aaron Judge is always hurt. 4 of his 7 seasons, he's been on the injured list during very long, significant times. And he did that this past year. Missed 50-something games. Quote, last year's over. They were only one guy short, Keith said. If Judge doesn't go down, it's a different season, right? Uh-huh. Charlie countered by asking who's supposed to pitch for the Yankees. And McPherson didn't even bother mentioning last year's Cy Young winner, Garrett Cole, or 2022's All-Star Nestor Cortez. I'm telling you something about Cortez, one of the most overrated pitchers. I would think that he'll be taking another sort of step back. Quote, not Luis Severino, McPherson joked before cutting up the call. Go on, do better. Come on, Mets fans. You're welcome here. You can dry your eyes. These are the kinds of comments, sort of low IQ comments that you see on Twitter. You got Luis Severino. You have the richest owner in the sport. He went to Japan to get Yamamoto. He'll be all right. That's fear there. I can hear it in Charlie's voice. Let them hate. They're big mad now. No, they're big mad. So this is the kind of insanity that you see on Twitter. Not a lot of intellectualism. A lot of sort of low IQ responses from this guy. And this is the attack dog of the Yankees. Let me read you some tweets from the last few days, the last few hours. I'm on WFAN taking calls and talking sports, duh. That's how he wrote it. This is real intellectual. Sixberg, down bad RN. Kenny Pickett is better than they give credit for being. I mean, they wanted Mason Randolph. They're right in the AFC playoff hunt. Can't lose that game at home. Can't lose B2B games at home to 2 teams currently picking in the top 3 of next year's draft. Now, this is the thing that's interesting. He writes, Tim Tebow's so annoying, on brand. Tim Tebow is a Christian missionary. So Keith is showing his slip is showing when he says, he's another guy that's anti-Christian. Because Tim Tebow is not an athlete anymore. He's not an athlete anymore. He does, I guess, college football analysis. but he's a Christian missionary. So he's attacking someone who's Christian. That seems to be the mantra. We know that that screwball in the morning, Greg Giannotti does that. So this kind of goes with what happens at the nervous hospital known as WFAN.
They're coming to take me away, ha ha. They're coming to take me away, ho ho, hee hee, ha ha. To the funny farm.